No Ugly, yes please. No Ugly is created in New Zealand by a small, determined and innovative team whose mission is to eradicate ugly. It's inherent in the ingredients we choose, the products we create and our business values and behaviours. We are proud to be part of the global wellness movement, making a difference for the wellness of our people and our planet, right here from the cleanest, greenest country at the bottom of the world. No Ugly's range of functional beverages are scientifically formulated to get you back to gorgeous. With natural ingredients, they've created a truly functional range of beverages with proven health claims. And unlike any other health drinks, their entire line is low sugar but taste amazeballs. Get back to gorgeous with No Ugly skin and 10 grams of marine collagen. Detox, the hangover dream. Hydrate, like an isotonic rain in the desert. Libido, yes, yes, yes. Immunity, it's to live for. Sleep, sweet dreams. Focus, your personal laser. Gut, for shits and giggles. And now calm, it's like a cuddle from your mum. They have 3 different formats, 2 50ml glass bottles, 3 30ml cans, and now 100ml glass shots. No Ugly, yes please. This is the I Quit Sugar podcast, unprocessed, brought to you by No Ugly Wellness Tonics. Content warning. This podcast episode contains conversations about mental health and suicide that may be distressing for some listeners. We recognise that these topics can be challenging to hear, and we encourage you to prioritise your well-being while listening. If you or someone you know needs support, please contact Lifeline on 131114 or Beyond Blue on 1300 224636. Remember, help is available and you are not alone. Hi, I'm JJ from I Quit Sugar.
And I'm Peter, founder of Goodness Me, which is your go-to good-for-you grocery store. We're here out of a deep desire to help you live your healthiest life. We've both been through health journeys which have been transformative in how we live our lives and approach each day. After learning how to manage my autoimmune condition through food and lifestyle, I realised that we live in a world where we are overfed and undernourished. But it can be as easy as some simple changes that can have a huge impact on how your body operates and how you feel day to day.
I've also been through a very confusing and oftentimes overwhelming health journey, which started with gut dysbiosis and developed into thyroid issues and now an autoimmune condition that I'm still learning about. We don't want you guys to go through what we have. It can be a lonely, overwhelming and often conflicting and confusing world. So we're hoping that these conversations inspire you to dig a bit deeper, cut through the noise and help you live a healthier life. Health is wealth at the end of the day. So I Quit Sugar are bringing you an 8-episode series where we interview some incredible people who have so much wisdom to share on different areas of health and well-being. It's our hope these conversations inspire you to take control of your health and live your fullest life in the process.
Our guest today is Leah Scott. Leah is a certified Level 2 Wim Hof Method Instructor, breathwork specialist, extreme cold tolerance practitioner, mountain guide, motivational speaker, and mother of 2. Having conquered her own battle of anxiety, stress, depression, and sleeping problems after her divorce, her mission is to help people improve their health and well-being by reconnecting them to nature, empowering them to do more than they think they can, while offering tools to create peace, love, and freedom within the mind. Her philosophy on cold exposure training is that it's best experienced in nature, snowy treks or swimming in icy rivers and lakes, as it offers a really unique opportunity to step outside your comfort zone, reconnect, and learn about yourself. These tools are the catalyst for actual health, mind, body, and spirit. Leah, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Peter and JJ. I'm excited. Great to be here.
We're so excited to have you here, and we'd love to start by asking you, what's one ritual you did this morning to set you up for the day?
This is a very average morning for me. So what I do is pretty much every morning I wake up, I breathe, I engage in exercise, and that might be on the beach, at the gym. This morning I rode my bike 10 kilometres, went for a swim after that, and about an hour or 2 later I jumped in an ice bath.
Sounds like a magical morning. Really, really amazing. I'd love to be able to do all that, which is really inspiring. So we thought we'd kick off by asking you, as you're one of the leaders in cold therapy in Australia. For those who don't know out there, we'd love you to explain who Wim Hof is, because he's become a bit of a celebrity, and also how you got to the point of being a certified Wim Hof instructor.
Yeah, for sure. So Wim, he is a 63-year-old Dutchman from the Netherlands. He was into many different esoteric disciplines from the age of 12, and followed his curiosity, I suppose, down different, more breathwork modality pathways. However, when he was 17, he was really drawn into a frozen canal, and again followed his curiosity. And he said, it just took my breath away. But he stayed in, got control over his breathing pattern, and realized that he'd found something that allowed him to have that mind-body connection that really worked with the breathing that he'd been searching for. Now, to cut a long story short, his wife committed suicide many years later, and he was left with 4 kids to raise. And so it's when he really started to put these practices, made them a daily practice. And he was known as the crazy man in the Netherlands. However, I think really what he started to see is that he was thriving in all of his adversities. And he genuinely wanted people to feel happy, stronger, and healthy. So he started to do his world records, and he's held like 28 world records at any one time. But this really got the attention of the media, then the scientists, and I think intuitively he knew to take it down science. And, right now there's 10 published papers out on the method, with another 3 or 4 in the making. And, if anyone wants to have a look at the published papers, they can jump onto the Wim Hof Method.com online to research. But yeah, that's really where it began. And that's probably going back 10 odd years ago now. But the most famous published paper was when he proved that we could influence our nervous system and immune response. And that, that changed the science books, right? We can use our breath and cold exposure, the cold exposure practices to influence our systems. But how I got into it was about 7.5 years ago. I separated from my husband, and I lost 90% of people out of my life overnight. It was a huge life change. Just like that. The life that I was once attached to was not there anymore. And so this led me into extreme anxiety, stress, depression. I was not wanting to leave the house, having panic attacks. And I had a couple of awakening moments and started on a seeking journey. This led me initially to go to my local GP. She offered me anxiety pills and sleeping tablets, and, called it an anxiety disorder. And at that time, when I was in the GP's office, I didn't feel like I was disordered. I felt like I was uneducated. My mind and body were screaming at me, especially mentally. And physically, I was so fit, and I ate quite healthy, but mentally I was drowning. So I started to listen to the whispers by that point. And, I just told myself there's another way. So I didn't take the pills. And when I stepped out of the office her office that day, I decided to live as healthy as I could. I would try anything, once. I knew that fear played a big role in my anxiety. And I would start talking to people and just listening to them, listening to what they had to say. A month or two later, I come across the Wim Hof Method and listened to Wim on the Joe Rogan podcast and decided to give it a go. And that was, just at home in my bedroom. This was way out of my comfort zone. I was not into breath work, totally feared the cold. Was no way I was going to have the cold shower, but the breath work was just euphoric. I saw colors and lights and electrical signals, and I come out of that and I felt calm. I felt peace, and it actually blew me away. I knew that from that point I'd found something that would change my life forever. And again, I wasn't going to have the cold shower, but because it was so powerful, I had the cold shower.
Yeah.
And it was very vocal, very vocal. But I come out of the cold shower and I felt strong and I felt present. So I felt like I was, gifted this beautiful connection within my mind and body. And I did it every day. But I was drawn to move to Jindabyne, to the snowy mountains, just to see how far I could keep pushing this way of life, and ended up in the Thredbo River. And, the people of Jindabyne called me fucking crazy. I was the crazy woman. However, very early on, I had a few mystical experiences in the river, and I would go in there first thing in the morning and the place would be white, or, might have been snowing, and I'd have my Patagonia jacket on and my beanie, and then I'd strip off into my bikini and in I would go. And it was, on one instance, I was incredibly lonely. I started this new life in Jindabyne I was a single mom, I knew one person. But I really found my peace and in that river, and started to learn a lot about myself. And it taught me a lot about difficult situations and how my mind and body worked. And within a year, I decided to become an instructor and flew overseas, and I've never looked back. Like, I'm just living my passion, and I work with Wim. It's great to be able to spend time with him and the family, and I pass it on. I fly around the world. It's not just Australia. It's not just the retreats in the snowy mountains. But it's everywhere. And what a life that I've created.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, such an amazing story, but it truly sounds like you've created your ideal life. And it all just started, at home, from making a small decision that grew into a lot more bigger decisions. And amazing. So I suppose, going back to the cold exposure and talking about the benefits that you might have felt, are you able to explain some of those benefits that you can get from cold exposure?
So the cold, we have hot and cold temperature receptors all over our skin. So once these are activated, it sends signals to the hypothalamus, like our mind, which then sends signals down into our adrenal glands, and we release adrenaline, which starts off a cascade within the sympathetic nervous system. We release happy hormones, like feel-good hormones. We feel focused, clarity, presence, motivation. And, it's another one. It's great for recovery as well. So, I train athletes, people with RSI, simply sore joints. This is great for. But back to looking at our systems: nervous system, immune system, cardiovascular, lots of all body benefits. And just some simple benefits that everyday people are after is it gets rid of stress. I tell people, if you were stressed, anxious, if you were depressed, it's not going to last in the ice bath. It really won't. It upregulates our mood, and also good for people who are suffering from autoimmune symptoms.
Got to explore it a bit more.
Yeah.
Both of us have autoimmune.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Right. And Are the benefits something you feel pretty instantly, or is it sort of long-term after repeated exposure doing it that you found the best benefits?
Both. So I do a lot of day workshops. So I host 4-hour workshops, and I tell people like this is the tip of the iceberg, and I facilitate a breathing session, meditation, they get in the ice bath and they feel amazing. Like most of the time, sometimes there's a lot that goes into the inner work journey. It's we release negative labeled emotions as well. Like sometimes people feel quite, angry or frustrated, but sometimes they're just happy and content, and, they might want to laugh. But that's what they really will experience in that 4-hour session. But if you make it a commitment, every single time we engage in a breathing session or within the cold exposure, it's going to be different. So they're going to learn something else. But long-term benefits really depends on, who you are, what you are suffering from, what you want to get out of it, what you've got on for the day. So back when I first started my journey, I wanted to get onto my adversity, my suffering. I started to learn about myself, how my mind and body worked. And that's how I thrived back then. I really went from someone who couldn't leave the house to coming out into the world and being able to see and even feel where other people's mental health was at. I had this full 360 spin on my life. Whereas as the years went on, I had to study to become an instructor. I've studied published papers, all of our systems, our biology, podcasts. And so I used it for plasticity on my mind. I would get into the river twice a day and come back and study. I never felt that slug, the 3 p.m. that a lot of people say, I get tired at 3 p.m. Not if you ice bath.
Definitely have to try that then, hey? You've sold all of us.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's a tool. If I run the country, there'd be one in schools, workplaces. That's what I'm working towards. And these days I love it for the stillness in my mind throughout the day, energy. I always sleep well, so it really allows us to get on top of our circadian rhythms.
When we drink to forget, we're mostly drinking to forget the million stupid decisions we've made in our life. But No Ugly aims to change all that with an exciting new tonic designed to help us stop making so many stupid decisions in the first place. It's called No Ugly Focus, and it comes with just about every brain-boosting ingredient under the sun. Ginkgo biloba and ginseng, polyphenols like green tea extract, grapeseed extract, apple extract, white tea solids, and packed with 6 different B group vitamins. But what really makes No Ugly Focus so effective is the New Zealand blackadder blackcurrants. New Zealand plant and research have discovered that these unique currants display a remarkable ability to elevate cognitive performance. Now we can no longer forget that we didn't make this claim. New Zealand plant and research did. And so you don't forget to drink No Ugly Focus. No dumb old ordinary blackcurrants for us.
So, Leah, starting with cold therapy, what's the best way to get into it? I'm guessing, going straight into an icy river is probably not the best start. Are there some tips you can give to begin and get the journey going?
Yeah, so I do recommend people start with a cold shower. And they can start off by having their warm shower, washing themselves, and then turning the shower cold and putting their arms in first, then their legs in, and just getting used to it, and then turning their back and getting the cold shower on their neck there, which is the mind-body connection, and aiming for 15 seconds. And then the next day, increasing it to 30 seconds until, they get up to around the 2-minute mark. And just another really good tip is I tell people just observe yourself. Your thoughts might be saying, I don't want to do this. This might be cold. This might be painful. But just to bring their awareness to the breath, focus on long exhales to calm themselves down. So when we focus on long exhales, we're stimulating our vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, and it's in control of our heartbeat. So that long exhales is a great way to stimulate that nerve and to calm down when we're in a difficult situation. I will mention that literally probably 80% of people tell me they'd prefer to be in an ice bath than have cold showers.
Oh, wow. Why is that?
Because, again, back to the temperature receptors that we have on our body. So we have heat and cold receptors. We have pain receptors, when we touch ourselves. So the body, the mind gets confused when there's a cold shower on the back, but we're warm on the front.
Right.
So it's really uncomfortable. It's hard to relax in there. So people, they should start off with the cold shower, but then don't be afraid to go down to the service station, buy some ice and put it in their bathtub and have an ice bath and get down deep.
Yep. I mean, the 15 seconds sounds so much more manageable, less daunting in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with the ice bath, I've done it once before. Once you're in. And then it's, that's it. So
I will mention there that it's totally okay for it to take your breath away. Let the shock happen. It's the sympathetic nervous system, and we're getting rid of the stress out of our body. If anything, it's a great indication to people whether their lives are too stressful, or perhaps there's been a stressful event. So it's a feedback loop, but it's really positive, because a lot of people shy away, oh, I couldn't do that. You can tell in their body language, they tighten. And what I would say is they're the ones that really need it, because it'll allow them to relax, to get rid of the stress. And then they will, of course, garner all the other benefits that come with it.
So you speak a lot about the breath work and how that feeling of euphoria. Are you able to give a bit more advice or tips around breath work and where to start with that?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, where to start if people want something that is, I suppose, free in a way, they can just simply Google Wim Hof YouTube, and 3 rounds will come, that'll come up, and they can follow that. But I highly suggest that they jump on a fundamentals workshop in their local areas. I'm pretty sure that every city now in Australia, there is instructors. I think there's about 40 of us in Australia. But this will really allow people to understand proper techniques, which is important. You don't just want to teach yourself off the internet. So that's number 1. Number 2, they can then move on to the Wim Hof Method app, which is it has a guided breathing section, they can choose their music, their breaths, the duration. It's incredible. I think it costs about $70 for the year, but I highly recommend that to make a habitual practice.
I've heard it can be a little bit different in terms of cold therapy for men versus women. Is there any truth to that? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I mean, yes and no. We are different. So that's quite a fact. I tell women, especially, in regards to our hormones and, I don't get PMS anymore. One of a few of the benefits, of cold exposure is decreasing inflammation. And so it's very common for us to feel inflamed coming into our period. And it is a great way. Yeah, it's pain reduction as well. So pain is highly influential. Some people, what you feel as pain, I might not feel as pain. And vice versa. So we can work on these systems. We can rebalance our hormonal system as well. I've been through, obviously, with last 6 years of experience with the breath work and the cold exposure. I would go into the river when I was on my period as well. Because I would wake up occasionally, I might feel tired or sluggish. And again, this is not going to last in the river. Now that I've turned 40 At times, I don't want to go in when I'm on my period, maybe even a day or two coming in. So I'm listening to my body at this age. So I always tell women just, listen to yourself, try to understand where you're at, because we are all different.
Yeah.
So it's just taking like more of a common sense approach. But are you going to harm yourself? No, not in a cold shower, not in 2 minutes in an ice bath. Like I said, if anything, if we feel angry or agitated, it releases it.
Yeah.
It's gone.
When you speak about pain, it's got me thinking my mum's got arthritis head to toe in all her joints. So I can imagine the thought of getting into an ice bath for someone going through physical pain as well would be incredibly difficult. What kind of responses have you seen or experienced when you've been looking after people?
So I have trained a lot of people who've had RSI, sore joints, and arthritis and rheumatoid. And it is incredible. So if they are at home, and they can't get to a retreat or a river, then they can buy a bag of ice and put it in a bucket of water and simply get their hands in for 10 seconds. They can start off with and bring them out and work their way up to about 2 minutes in the ice bucket. So this will say if they have, arthritis, if she has arthritis in her hands, it is instant relief. So in the cold, what happens is our whole cardiovascular system, so veins, arteries, vessels, capillaries, we have like 120,000 kilometers of these tubes running throughout our body. It's incredible. So it's enough to go around the planet 2.5 times. And this system narrows in the cold. And so when your hand is in the bucket, it will narrow up to obviously wherever the water is. And then when she brings it out, everything opens back up. So it creates blood flow straight through, and which will get rid of the inflammation, because she'd be inflamed in her hands or in her feet. She can put her feet in as well. So, that is probably the best tip. I mean, I know the doctors aren't going to say that. They're going to go down the pill route, but this is instant.
You mentioned earlier, Leah, about immunity, and you've talked a lot about stress responses and how, people who live stressful lives maybe need to go down this path to release a bit of that stress. Can you kind of explain that a bit more? Is it that we're, I guess, putting stress on our body in a different way and therefore releasing the other stresses? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so to understand these practices, it really helps to understand hormesis. So you may have heard of eustress or acute stress, but it's short-term stress on the body that will trigger beneficial adaptations. So right down to cellular level. So we use these tools: breathwork, cold exposure, heat therapy is another one. Exercising, fasting, they all create a hormetic stress on the body. So we use this short-term stress to then trigger resiliency for chronic stress. Another way to look at it as well is in the breath work, we go from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. So we're upregulating our internal state and we're calming it down. Same as in an ice bath. We go in, we upregulate our state, right? It takes our breath away, our heart beats faster, our pupils dilate. We use our breath and we calm down into parasympathetic. So living in the 21st century, we're on the go all the time. A lot of us, we don't stop. You think we wake up in anxiety, we go out, we drink coffee, we have difficult conversations, we might be in a job or relationship we don't like, financial issues. We come home, we're stressed, we reach for the wine, we look at screens all the time, we watch the news, which is just fear-based. So we're continuously upregulating our nervous system all day. And then we lie in bed at night with an overactive mind wondering, why we can't sleep, why we can't calm down. So a brilliant benefit within this way of life is because we engage in the parasympathetic, so we can calm down. People can do this breathing at home in the morning, or go into a cold shower in the morning, fall into this calmful state, and teach the body how to go into it, build resilience, start adapting in both nervous system states, and go off for their day. So they've got more control over their systems.
And Leah, is this something you can do hand in hand with meditation as well? Do they ever pair together?
Something I love about breathwork, being again in the 21st century that we're in, a lot of people say, I can't meditate. And I say, that's fine. Don't stress over it. Don't judge yourself. Give this breathwork a go, because it's very powerful. Fastening our breath, this deep breathing, then going into a breath hold. Again, it's a very simple technique. But that as the rounds, we do, the Wim Hof Method breathing consists of rounds of breath work. So it's this very simple technique every single round, but then it will throw you into a meditative state. So once you're finished with the breathing, the breath work, you will then, your eyes will be closed and you'll be enjoying it. It's euphoria, happy, like feel-good hormones that we're releasing. If people can make it a habit, as time goes on, that's when they'll realize how the chatter has slowed down, how there is stillness within the mind, and, they're not such a prison. It's not such a prison of their thoughts. The thoughts change from negative or monkey mind stuff or rabbit hole stuff into, what can I do for myself today that's going to give me a more optimal, living standard? How can I help somebody else? And once you're engaged in that breathing for that, certain amount of time or whatever, you can meditate. And something very simple that people can do at home is if they're washing the dishes, they can focus on their breath. It's like an interoceptive practice. And so you're focusing on your breathing, or you can focus on one finger at a time. So you're bringing your awareness out of your mind, out of your thoughts, and you're focusing on this, but then doing something on the outside at the same time. And it's just ways of training their concentration circuits to step away.
We're so active and busy all the time. Our minds are always somewhere, and stress, even if it's that chronic low-lying stress there from the world we live in. So yeah, it sounds amazing on all fronts for so many different things, and also makes a lot of sense. A psychologist was telling me the other day, your physical impacts your emotions, which impacts your thoughts, and so it goes in a circle. So if you can, change that first thing in the morning with something like cold therapy, it sounds like it could make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's hand in hand. There's no mind up here and then body down there. We are a multidimensional connective being, and we have all of these, inputs of, stress or our habits or what we do, but then they're going to have an output. People can just start by perhaps writing a plan. What am I going to do tomorrow, that's going to make my life a little bit easier.
Are there any dangers to cold therapy that anyone needs to think about or be aware of?
If women are pregnant, it's a no-no, especially the breathing, definitely. But yeah, obviously when you're pregnant, the people aren't going to, it hasn't gone through science or anything. So I'd say no to that. And epilepsy is another one. But, in regards to hypothermia and things like that, it's to even get to that state, you would have to be in the river for, 15 minutes or in an ice bath, and your mind and your body is going to be screaming at you for minutes and minutes and minutes before you get anywhere near that. But I always tell people, if they want to be assured, then just go along to an instructor, go to a workshop, come to my retreats. You're very much supported and taken care of. I've taken thousands of people through this way of life. And, if an untrained person fell in a frozen river, they would probably panic and scream and, try and get out and exhaust their systems, and eventually after this, 15, 20 minutes, they would, drown or die or whatever. But someone who has been trained, if I fell into the river, I would just be calm. I'd focus on my breath, long exhales. I would take control, and then I would, to get out. So it's a very beneficial tool for people to have.
The time I did it, a couple of the guys stayed in there for about 15 to 20 minutes because, it became a bit like a competition sometimes.
The ego.
Yeah, there you go. But the nerves in one of his fingers, he couldn't feel them for about 3 months. And so I think he definitely stayed in too long. And just be a competition with yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I teach people, we've all got, a lot of the instructors all have their own take, but I pass on this way of life from my experience years ago in the river, which is about learning about our internal world. It's not about the outside stuff. And if we're going to be using timers, and doing the 10 or 15 minutes, the other thing is how much ice is in there. Again, there's all these different levels of cold exposure. When people tell me they have 15 minutes, I go, yeah, what does that mean? The variables are just crazy. But the nerve damage, that's occasionally does happen, but it does always come back. And I find sometimes when it happens to people, they've either broken a finger as well. They can receive numbness like for a week or two. But it comes back and their fingers work better than ever.
Back to the immunity. I know you've mentioned there's lots of scientific papers and there's more in the works, which is amazing. With the immunity, do you mind just going into a little bit more detail around that specific study?
When Wim first took it to science, he went to a university in the Netherlands and he was injected with an endotoxin, a dead virus. And he showed that within, sure how long it took him, maybe half an hour using his breathing, that he could influence his immune response, right, and get rid of the virus. But they said, no, you're the Iceman. You're not everybody. And he said, no, everybody can do this. So a couple of years later, he trained 20 men in the mountains of Poland through his breathing and cold exposure over 4 days. And again, this was just, the breath work that people would experience if they come on my retreat. The breath work, meditation, jumping in the river, frozen river, and hiking through the mountains in their shorts. So we train people to then be able to, walk in snowshoes over the mountains. It's just incredible, covered in snow. He then brought those 20 men back to the university, and the scientists chose 12, and they had 12 untrained men and injected them all with the endotoxin. And the 12 untrained men were vomiting, sweating, headaches, diarrhea, as you would expect from a virus. Within 45 minutes, the men that Wim had trained had gotten rid of the virus out of their immune response, and they did not have those symptoms. So this is again why, and you might hear a lot of the instructors say we don't get sick on the same level as what other people do by using these simple tools. So we just don't, and if we do, you just engaged in the breathing, you let the cold go and just get rid of it. Again, it clears inflammation, decreases inflammation on the innate immune system, and increases white blood cells on the adaptive immune response. So I tell people, this is in regards to another published paper, that once every 6 days, If you're simply doing cold exposure for immunity, then you should have an ice bath every 6 days.
Okay. Oh, that's so interesting. I mean, part of my autoimmune condition really impacts my immune system. So I'm so conscious to always, keep it in check and keep my gut as healthy as possible. So doing something like this is really interesting to try. And also the fact that you mentioned it's not actually every day. You should do the ice bath. I'm guessing the showers you do daily, but the ice baths you could try every 6 days. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Peter. But also the breath work, that is important. You do need both for that. They will both release an immune response. But I tell people it's like 60% breath work, 40% ice baths.
Right. Okay.
So if you can do it daily in the morning, 3 to 5 rounds of breathing. And then again, like for newbies, they can be doing it after lunch. If something comes up, if you feel agitated or upset or you've had a difficult conversation, do it again. Yeah, bring yourself back to baseline and go off for the day.
Thanks so much for sharing all of this. It's definitely given me some extra motivation to try the cold shower, maybe the ice bath. I'll let you know how I go. Maybe Peter and we need to go down to Jindabyne at some point. Yep. But yeah, we are all about, giving people the tools that they might need to live a healthier life. And part of that is cooking their own food. So we would love it if you had a recipe that you of a meal that you cooked in the past couple of weeks that was a bit of a winner in your household. We'd love it if you could share that with us.
Last night I cooked, it was just a nice salad, a nice basic salad, but with a cauliflower steak. And we crumbed the cauliflower steak with organic nuts and sourdough, and had just a nice sauce or dressing of olives, capers, preserved lemon.
Sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious. And Leah, we just want to thank you so much for sharing your powerful and very personal story and sharing all your wisdom and knowledge. It's truly so helpful to everyone out there. And if anyone wants to find out more information about you or get in touch with you, where's the best place?
Thank you for having me, ladies. It's just been a pleasure. I love passing on my way of life, and I'm so passionate about it and fulfilled. But if anyone wants to find my information, then my website is leahscott.net, or I'm on Instagram under @LeahScotty with an IE. Thank you and take care, ladies. All the best.
Thanks so much. Liked this podcast? Please give us a 5-star review and share it with someone who you think would benefit from it. We want to help as many people as possible live healthier lives. This podcast is general in nature. We aren't doctors or health practitioners. But if this podcast has prompted something for you, we really encourage you to make an appointment with your health practitioner and get advice that is tailored to you. This podcast is recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.